Why do you think so few people in the industry using the team-centric model are able to get to making, call it seven figures in net income? Like, why are so few people able to do that? What do you feel like is lacking or preventing people from actually being able to execute and do that? And I'm assuming like this, so you were, building your businesses like late 90s, early 2000s, and this is right after Gary Keller published The $1 Million Real Estate Agent, and there was this huge trend, I assume, that happened. I was in high school when this was going on, maybe in middle school. But like, I imagine that's like what, got everybody, like Gary wrote this book, The $1 Million Real Estate Agent.
Chris, do you know where that book came from?
I imagine studying other people.
Do you know who he specifically got all the ideas from?
I don't know who, but like I remember in the book he referenced a bunch of people like he learned from, and there was somebody in there that's in Houston, Texas, named Ronnie, and his wife Kathy.
Howard Brennan. I'm answering my question. So if you look at the original publication of the book, there's this black and white picture. I think all those people are Howard Brennan people, and so I don't want to talk too much about that. But the reality of it is, the ideas for the Millionaire Real Estate Agent all came from what Howard Brennan was teaching. Now I have a question for you, and I'm going to challenge you. Maybe not so much because I got to know you somewhat. You're smart. So why would a brokerage push upon agents building a team if the brokerage knows from looking at other team members' P&L statements? To your question, why is the broker motivated to try to influence people like you to build a team if they know ultimately people like you don't make any money from it, not real money?
Well, something you and I were talking about offline is like, I never really saw the difference between teams and brokerages. And in fact, if you buy like the typical, real estate franchise business and you get a copy of the operations manual, it's, like you're in the agent count game, not the agent productivity game. And so there becomes a law of diminishing return where it's actually disadvantageous for the franchisee or broker owner to like push somebody to have a really successful team.
Yeah, because they don't make any money on it, which just goes back to your question. So why are so few teams making money? So when Julie and I were selling real estate, you could still get 6 and 7% commission. You could still charge a processing fee of $700, $1,000. And still, even at that, so when I look at somebody like a team member, and this, I'm getting tons of inquiries like this because all these teams were essentially never profitable. To your point, you're exactly right. Most of these teams have the same shitty profit margins as most small brokerage, which is less than 3%. Most of them are making around 2%. Some of the ones where the agent who runs the team, the Chris Waters of the group, he's still selling real estate. But if he takes his transactions out of it, just looks at the transactions, the expenses to support the transactions are coming in on the buyer agent side, he's making no money. And I've had conversation after conversation. People don't think like that. The number one Keller Williams agent, for example, in Wilco, right, just north of you. So I had this very conversation with him. He told me all of his numbers. I don't want to say his name because it was, a coaching call. And I broke it down. Well, I'll tell you his numbers. It was 1.8 million. And so he had always been taught by all this Keller Williams stuff. Okay, well, this is what this is. This is your profit. This is your profit. And I asked him, I said, how many, you're still listing houses? And he said, yes. I said, well, how much money of the 1.8 did you make from your commissions from listing houses? He had to look at a spreadsheet. It was very well organized. It was great. And then he told me the number. And it was like, the essence of it is 100,000 that he earned from listing houses was going to subsidize the other side of the business because the other side of the business was essentially running negative. And that's the typical pattern I see with all these teams. As soon as the team leader stops doing the real work, which is with regards to the work, working with sellers, and they start delegating it, their margins get cut in half. Now, Chris Heller, and I coached some of the people on his team back when he sold real estate full-time in San Diego. He did it right. He had all of his people basically, now he did do some buying with leads, but his people were all working the phones. I mean, they would pound the phones. Monica Reynolds was running his team for a while, runs Maps Coaching now. And, that's what they did. They worked the phones, calling physicals, calling expireds. That's high margin work because you're not buying the lead. So why is it that?
Do you think it's potentially like a lack of, number one, like the things I'm hearing you say, which I tend to agree with, is it's a lack of like financial modeling acumen. It's a lack of like understanding the organizational structure in terms of how to level up leadership and have a financial model to afford leaders so that you can exit the business. And then, third, understanding like how you, from a lead generation perspective, you've got to be very mindful of your client acquisition cost in order to have a profitable business and drive revenue and afford leadership so you can truly exit the business. And ideally, if you're doing that and you're underneath a brokerage, it could actually be to your detriment, and it may be more beneficial to just be your own independent brokerage because you're basically the supervising broker anyways.
Well, the most profitable people I've ever coached were the ones that basically, and you look at nationwide, this is true. They're the ones that focus primarily on, so if I were to get back into real estate, I have people ask me this occasionally, what would you do? And the funny thing, Chris, is they're expecting me to say something different than we say in our coaching program, which is always really funny, hold on, you think it was this? Well, so Julie and I would definitely focus on working the phones and going after the proactive lead generation. We would probably not work with any buyers, truthfully. We would refer the buyers out for like a 35% referral fee. Obviously, if you had a seller that wanted to buy something, maybe then it would make sense. But if you take buyer leads and you refer those out for, say, 30 or 35%, you're actually going to make more net profit than you would if those agents work for you on average based on, the numbers that are coming out.